Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki, Fraser, and Rachael Dean, certified clinical aromatherapists. We are excited to have you here on today's episode where you know that you'll get the best essential oil scoop.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. If you want to learn more about how to become a clinical aromatherapist, check out the courses at www.schoolofessentria.com.
Welcome to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki Fraser here with Rachael Dean, and we are kicking off a 3-part series all about safety.
Yes, our safety charts. So we have these as a free download on our website. So just go to schoolofessentria/free and you can download those charts. And there's multiple charts. So today this first one, we're going to go over the dilution chart. So the essential oil blending guide chart, and that is where we take different size bottles. So a lot of people have like roller bottles. This one's blue, but this one's clear, maybe easier to see. And you are going to create your blends kind of in the bottle because it's just usually for personal use. So people are using their oils everywhere, and we want to make sure that you're using them safely. So there's unfortunately a lot of bad recipes out there that might have, let's say 40 or 50 drops in this one little roller bottle, which is only 10 milliliters. And that's a lot of oil. It's too much oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way too much oil. So we're here to talk a bit about that and we'll kind of elaborate and expand over the next couple of episodes about kind of how much oil you want to be using for each. But this one specifically we're going to talk about is the dilution chart. So if you want to chat about that, Nikki, for a second.
Yeah. So like you said, Rachael, if you haven't downloaded our dilution charts, go online. I usually have a copy laminated and it's still around when I teach. I have it available for students there to come look. A lot of them take pictures and I'm like, just go to the website, download them. So many, because there's more than just these ones also.
And I post reminders like weekly as well on our Facebook and our Instagram and our socials, wherever those are. Of where the link is to get that and where you can just kind of grab that chart when you're on the go as well.
Yeah. And
I'm thinking about it.
So when we're diluting oils, one, like we've mentioned in past episodes, please dilute your essential oils. If there's one thing that you will learn, dilute anything. Rachael has a fractionated coconut oil up, jojoba oil, olive oil, sesame oil, avocado oil, castor oil, so many different carrier oils.
Just
lotion.
Dilute.
Yes.
Just dilute.
Please dilute.
Don't
please.
put them on neat. We don't want that. And neat means you're just taking them straight out of the bottle and putting it right on your skin.
Yeah. Okay. This is because we don't want skin sensitization to happen. And once you are sensitized to an oil, that means that oil, you will start to react to it for many, many years to come, typically. Like it's hard to desensitize yourself afterwards once you've been sensitized to an oil. And anything with a similar chemical constituent will also get a reaction from you. So it's not just the one oil, but if chemically, when we're looking at the molecules of the oil, if they are similar to another one, you could react to the others. And so we just want to keep everybody safe. And to do that, we dilute. So how much to use? That's always the biggest question, is how much carrier oil to essential oil should I use? And we are always talking in our podcast about, a healthy adult. So not if you're pregnant, not if you're a child. We will get into that actually in this 3-part series. We'll get into children and all of that. Don't worry. But as a rule of thumb, we're typically talking about healthy adults, no complex health history, things like that. And so in that situation, starting around a 2% is typically what I do, even 1% sometimes, depending on if it's emotional, if it's physical, right? It's never the same thing. It depends on what you're diluting for.
So if I'm looking at this chart too, just to give an example, so this 10 milliliter roller bottle, which I think a lot of people are very familiar with, 2% would be 4 drops of oil. So 4 total. So whether it's not like 4 lavender, 4, peppermint, 4 something else, it's 4 total. So maybe one of 3 different oils plus a second drop of one of the other oils. Or if you have a very complex blend that you want to make, that maybe has like different ratios, you're going to have to make a bigger batch of oil. So if you're like, I only need 10 milliliters, well, that's great, except for in order to be safe, you actually need to make more. So keep that in mind. So yeah,
Mhm.
so 2% in a 10 milliliter roller bottle is only 4 drops of oil.
And if we go up to 30 milliliters, right? This is the nice thing with the dilution chart. All the drops are right there, so you can see exactly what it is. But in 30 milliliters, if we wanted 2%, that would be 12 drops. And then if we wanted 3%, 18. If we wanted 4%, 24, and then 5%, 30. Now, on the chart, it does say 0.5 to 5%. And the 5% is really the absolute max that you want to use on a regular basis. Even on a regular basis, I wouldn't do it. Still, that's more of that acute versus chronic. And again, depending on if it's emotional, if it's physical, what it is. Emotionally, when I'm working for, you know, it not even just happiness, sad, anxiety, anything like that, even spiritually, things like that. I'll even do a 0.5% often or 1%. You don't need a lot.
Yeah, very true. So these charts show you both how to use it as the like kind of a 5 milliliter, which I think this is close. This one might be a 4 milliliter actually, if I
Mhm.
remember correctly. Just a tiny little amber bottle I'm holding up for those not watching the video. And kind of goes from there up to 60. But we also have a second chart, which is handy for people who are maybe using them for younger people, or you just want to be able to figure out smaller percentages depending on what it is. So we have that also called the micro dilution chart, and that goes from 0.1% up to 0.75%.
Mhm.
And the thing that's important to remember on both of these charts, but it definitely shows up a lot on the micro dilution chart, is that there's like, it might say 1.2 drops or 4.8 drops. Obviously, if we're doing a drop, we can't do a point anything drop. You can only do 4 drops or 5 drops. So if you're putting essential oils into a blend and it calls for 1.2 drops. If you put 2 drops in, the percentage is significantly higher. You're now gone up to, where are we at? Like you've more than doubled your percentage, right? So you want to make sure that if you're using drops, which we use kind of on these smaller blends very regularly, otherwise we kind of go to weight and different
Volume.
measurements, volume, thank you. You want to make sure that you're like rounding down or very consciously rounding up, and therefore knowing that your blend is actually not going to be, 1.2% or 1.2 drops equaling 0.1% or something like that. So you just got to be
Yeah.
very careful and aware of what you're actually doing and know that drops are still solids. They're only one, two, three, four, that kind of thing. So if you're looking at percentages or half drops, that you need to make sure that you are um, taking that into account.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of times, especially when we are working with children or elderly or, severely health compromised people, where we are using these lower dilutions, that a lot of times you might need to make a 60, 80 milliliter blend just to get that 10 milliliter roller bottle. So you might have, 5, 6, 7 roller bottles of the exact same blend, but it's always better to be safe than to have too much essential oils causing that sensitization. And, even with this, remember also a lot of times you don't even need essential oils. Sometimes just carrier oils, especially with children. Sometimes carrier oils will do the trick, or hydrolats or things like that.
Mhm.
But if you are choosing to use the essential oils, this is why we have these dilution charts to ensure that you are diluting them properly, because these micro dilutions are very important for those age brackets, those and health conditions. But if we have a little one and we just want that 0.6% dilution or something like that in 30 milliliters, or sorry, 0 0.1 dilution in 30 milliliters, that's zero point 0.6 of a drop. So if you want a zero point 0.1 dilution, you have to make at least 60 milliliters of product to get
Mhm.
that dilution properly of a 1.2, so 1 drop. Because at this age too, like you said, rounding up is the the dilution is different and then it becomes unsafe. So
Yeah,
please always
exactly.
round down to the last full drop. It is very, very important.
And just, if you're worried about having like lots of product, then when you're making it, thinking about what else you could use it for. If
Hmm.
you're making something for a child and you need to make this big blend, great. What else is in there? Maybe you can repurpose that now for a different blend for an adult and therefore maybe add some more oils and, either resell it or, work with your other clients, et cetera, on that.
Yeah. And we understand that we can't cover all the different dilution amounts, the size bottles, all of that. So if you want to figure out how to do it yourself without needing the charts, there's also a math equation that you can use. So we do teach this in the course, and we will share it with you. But if you take 20, and the 20 never changes. The 20 is because it takes 20 drops of essential oils to make 1 milliliter of essential oil. So the 20 equals 1 milliliter. So the 20 always stays the same, and you multiply it by the milliliter bottle that you are using. So if we are using a 10 milliliter bottle, we would do 20 times 10, and then we would multiply it by the percent that we want the dilution to be. So if we want a 2% dilution, then we would multiply it by 2, not 2%, just the number 2. So 20 times 10 times 2. And then I don't have a calculator, and that should be very simple math. But that'll give you a
20
number
times 10 times 2 equals 400.
equals 400. And then we divide that by 100, which gives you 4, which gives you 4 drops of essential oils to get a 2% blend in a 10 milliliter roller bottle. So again, that was 20 times the amount of milliliters times the number of percent, not the actual percent though. And then that full answer then divided by 100. And that gets you the drops that you want to use for the amount of bottle milliliters that you are using.
And if you're like wanting to practice that math yourself so that you become more familiar with it, you can
Mm.
also use our blending charts to like spot check.
Yeah.
Because like, looking at this, 10 milliliters, 2% equals 4 drops, right? So you could do the same math and you want 4% on a 60 milliliter. Well, you should be getting the number 48 when you do that same math. So, you can also just double check to make sure that you're understanding it correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so this this episode is really all about introducing these dilution charts. Less is always more. Please, please, please dilute. Dilute
Yes.
appropriate for your age, which we will get into in the next part. Depending on your age, is how much you want to dilute. But healthy adults around that 2%. If it's for something, I mentioned emotional, but I forgot to mention the physical earlier. If it's for something physical, apply it to where the physical, hurt, need, whatever it is. If you're applying for aches and pains on your knee, please put it on your knee. If it's on your lower back, please put it on your lower back, not the bottom of your feet or anything or anywhere else. If it's for something physical, put it to where it's actually needed on the body. And then you could go up to 3-4% very easily. But I never start at that 5% because it doesn't give you any wiggle room. And a lot of times it's not needed, and that's more for
Mhm.
short term versus the long term. So I
Yeah.
typically start around that 1-2%, even for adults.
Yeah. And once again, you can download these charts at schoolofessentria.com/en/free.
Yes. All right. Thank you for tuning in to this
Thank
week's
you.
episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki here with Rachael, and we'll see you in part 2 next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for spending your time with us here at Vetiver Vibes. This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. Don't forget to check out some of our free resources at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think would enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, you can go on over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review, and we will send you a free guided meditation as our way to say thank you.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply directly to you.